Good morning. Welcome to the WITI session on venturing. My name is Tamer. I am a venturer from way back. I have never had a job, so I don't have to flee from my job. I have been always a consultant, and I have been a consultant to entrepreneurs. So doubly over, I'm a business builder, and I build companies with entrepreneurs who are taking high risk and living in free fall, not knowing where their next nickel is coming from. That's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. So what we want to look at today is, what are these tactics that nobody ever tells you about? Basic principles for how you step beyond making a living, how you step beyond doing what you're told, and break out and do the work that you love, and build your own wealth and your own freedom. It's important. You spend so much time of your day working that you should be impassioned by your work and not run into obstacles everywhere you turn. Now, there's market obstacles, and then there's the biggest obstacle of all, which is yourself and your own limitations and your own attitude about your limitations, which I'd like you to just release. And I have been working for all these years with entrepreneurs, and in the last 4 years I have been working with experts who are consultants in a specialized expertise, and I've been teaching them what I've done for my 25 years of consulting, which I always thought they did, just like I did. They're successful consultants. They must be doing the same thing I'm doing. Turns out not. And so I've developed these 10 principles that allow them to break free and double their revenue and control their clients and control their scope creep and have more balance in their lives and pursue only the work that they really are rewarded in doing. And it's working really wonderfully. They're doubling their revenue, they're choosing their clients, they're setting value pricing instead of wages or hourly, and we'll talk about that in great detail. And it's working. Now, they have to step up and do the work. Every now and again I get one who doesn't step up and do the work. They don't make it. They do the same thing they've always done. They go back to their old habits and so on. So if I say clients, it's because I'm thinking about consulting. If you are a product entrepreneur, just hear customer. It's the same. The principles apply across. If you are in a corporation and doing entrepreneuring, in-house venturing, they've given you some project that's not on their core agenda, but you get to run it. That happens, and it's exciting. It applies to how you make strategic alliances, how you make partners in the marketplace. All of these principles apply because the principles have more to do with changing your context about your own power in these situations than it does how you're applying it. And that's what I found after the first 2 or 3 years of doing this consulting. I suddenly realized that my work was to change the context of the person I was working with to understand his or her deep value and demand what it was worth and not put up with abuse and get paid what they should be paid for the value they were delivering, and to reject any prospect, customer, client that was going to hinder their expansion of that power and their pleasure in their work. Teaching people to say no is the hardest thing in the world. They don't want to say no, but they learn. So this is what I mean by moving beyond making a living and empowering yourself to do the work that you want, to work smarter, not longer, not harder, but smarter, and to have a better balance in your life, doing what gives you the most pleasure. What I've discovered is the work that makes you happiest is the work that you do best, because there's a continuous positive feedback loop. You do well, people applaud, you're happy. You do better, you do more and more of doing that good stuff. You do better, that you get more applause. If you move into an area where it's not your best skill, where you're out of sync with your best worth and your best value that you deliver, then you get negative feedback and then you start to doubt yourself again. Silly. You can just keep spiraling up instead of spiraling down. So, the first question is, what is it you want? We're not encouraged to ask that. No one is encouraged to ask that. What is it you want? Do you want wealth? Do you want power? Do you want balance? Do you want self-expression? Pick any of the above. But know which one is more important, because it will direct what choices that you make. So it helps for you to really understand what you want out of life in order to be able to get it. It sounds simple, but people don't ask the question. So venturing, of the venturing that we're talking about, corporate in-house venturing, consulting, entrepreneuring on a product, these things give you the most money, the most freedom, and the most job security in the current economy. There's no job security in the current economy having a job. You know that. I mean, you know that you can be fired, you know you can be downsized. They call it all kinds of words, but you can be out of work. And you can then, if you're not out of work, be out of your pension. Look at what's happening with the pension. So you devotedly put 25 or 30 years into an effort, a company, and your pension gets corrupted, or you get unvested just before you're vesting. That makes me really mad. And so you're then not controlling your end of life choices either. And end of life means 30 years after you stop working, because we live so long. So the fact is that we are all on our own, whether we're employed or not, whether we're in a company. Even if our company loves us, we're on our own. Change of management can change all of that in a heartbeat. Okay. George Bernard Shaw said, "One man that has a mind and knows it can beat 10 men who haven't and don't." I love George Bernard Shaw. So, step one, creating your own personal power, authority, and value. Not like it's easy, but understand, if you become centered in your own value and you know what you have to give, you can come from a place of power that says, I have the authority to do this. I have the authority to make a change, or to move this product to this market, or deliver this service to this consultancy, or change how this company does its marketing, its product development, its R&D. Whatever it is, you need to assume the authority to deliver the value you know you have. So you need to be in touch with your own personal power. Now that's easy to say. One of the ways you do it is that you test it. You go out on a limb and you put forward your value. You stand up and say, I'm valuable. I stand up here and say, I'm going to tell you people new ways to live your life. Okay. I'm sure I can, because I've proven it by going out into the marketplace and changing how my clients respond to their work and change their lives. So I can stand up here and say, I have the authority to tell you this because I've done it. If you don't go out and do it, there's no feedback loop that says, yes, you're right, you have something extraordinary to offer, and you're going to offer it. So you must shift your context to your unique value. So spend some time after this thinking about what's unique about what you have to offer. Now, if you don't think you have anything unique to offer, none of this is going to work. But somewhere in you, you know that you're smarter than the average bear. You see it all around you, that you're thinking a better thought, that you're delivering a better product. that you're making more sense than the people around you. And so focusing on your unique value, put that together and give that. Give the value that you know you have, and you'll then understand how to get paid what you're worth. We'll talk about that too. But starting with, where's your unique value? Hone in on that. And essentially what happens as you hone in on your unique value and your own personal power and authority is that you attract people to you. They start to follow you. And they want to get on your magic carpet. One of my clients said, you know, we've been working together the last 10 months, and I realized that people are coming up to me, they want to talk to me. In places where I've been for years, something's pulling them to me. Something that they say, we really got what you do. That whatever you just stood up and said in 20 seconds, we got it. And that's really interesting. And that comment you made, we really like that. People are coming to following me around. And I said, of course they are, because your authority is showing, and your giving is showing, your value is showing. And so of course they're going to follow you around. You look like a leader. Oh, right? And he didn't. He's a very competent person, but he's shy. He doesn't look shy. He's 6'2" and handsome, you know, and respectful and has perfect manners. You could take him anywhere. But inside he's shy, and all these years he's been consulting, 10 years for consulting. After 20 years of being a CEO, he was still shy. If you're shy, you're shy, right? And all of a sudden he had his little sound bite. He had his value proposition. He learned how to say things simply, and people started coming to him. He started pulling people to him, and he noticed it. And that's the beginning of that positive feedback loop. So he was creating the magic carpet everybody wanted to get on. Churchill, I love Churchill. Now there's an authoritative man for you. He said, we're all worms, but I believe I'm a glowworm. That's what you get to do, be a glowworm. All right, so I want to tell you another story. I have a wonderful client. She's in fact my best client. She has just turned 40. She has 3 children under 10. She is the primary wage earner. She has a good husband, but he's an engineer, and he's a worker bee engineer. He's happy, but living in Los Angeles with 3 children is very expensive. And so she needs to work to make at least twice as much as he does, for them to all live the simple life we live in LA with our private schools and our expenses. Okay, so she came back from having her 3rd child 2 years ago and needed to reinvigorate her consulting practice, where she had been out of touch for about 6 months. So we began, and her revenue in 2011 was $111,000, which was good. She had a reputation and a pipeline, and she reactivated her client base, and we repositioned her. We did the work that we do, and that was good, except she needs to make 200 minimum, right? This is Los Angeles, 3 children, private schools, you know? Okay, so we put together all the things that we do, the packaging, the training, the outreach, the marketing, the speaking, the publishing, we did everything that we do to make successful consultants. 2012, she made $240,000. And I said, okay, that's good. That was our first step to get you to there. Now what is it you want? So in January of this year, 2013, she said, I want to make the same amount of money and I want to work less. And I went, okay, good. What does work less mean? She said, well, at the moment I work from 9 until 5:30, you know, and then I'm with my kids and I don't work on the weekends. I want to work less. I want an hour of exercise a day. I want some flexibility. to play with kids. I want what I want, right? I said, okay. So because of the momentum we had built in 2012, by January of this year, 2013, she had booked $177,000 worth of work. It wasn't all done, but it was all booked and contracted. So she was like scaling up the way we want her to scale up, but she wants to work less. So May comes last month. And she said, okay, I want to make $300,000 this year. And I went, yeah, okay, what about the working less? And she said, I'm already working less. I've got an hour of exercise in the middle of the day every day. And I said, good, so if you can stay there, so now we want to ramp you up. We're fine, we're on the path to that. But it's because you take one step after another and you don't unlearn the learning that got you there in the first place, and you add to it incrementally. You don't snap your fingers and make $3,000 and still exercise an hour in the middle of the day, right? You work it up. So not only is she successful, she isn't impassioned about her work. She's really good at it, and she's great on video, and she's great on speaking. She's a great speaker, which attracts a lot more new clients to her. But she'd rather not work. All my other clients love their work. They want to do their work, right? She doesn't. If you could just give her $300,000 a year and let her not work, she'd rather do that. And yet she is the most disciplined person in the world. She does everything she agrees to do. She doesn't whine. She never whines. I love that. Women don't whine, right? So she's a great story. I understand. She understands. And she's competent about getting the help for her kids and the coverage and so on. And her husband's good about it. I mean, there's a lot of team going on there. But she's still doing it within a workday, which is great. Okay, so one of her secrets is finding and closing new clients while you're working. Now this is a big, big piece of it. Many people, when they're on their own, they're not directed by their boss, they're not directed by a deadline they've been given. As soon as they get work, they stop doing everything else and do the work. Now that's the way to go broke. That's the way to lose all of your margin and run out and have no profit at the end of the year at all. Because it can take months to fire up your whole prospect list and your client base and have everyone new and old know that you're available. So that kind of continuous marketing and outreach and prospecting and closing has to happen while you're working, even if you're flat out working. Now, one of the ways you do that is you make more rational deadlines, so you leave room to do that outreach and those other deals, and then you stagger your calendar of deliverables so that you have enough room to finish the works that you have and put the other new clients off to different start dates. Now, Amy's the same issue. She said, I'm going away. She's taking 3 weeks off to go to Europe with her family, because her husband's European. And she said, I'm going to have an empty August. I'm going to come home from 3 weeks away. I will have wrapped up all the work deliverables that are due so I can go, and then it's going to be August and I have nothing. I said, this is March. Let's not worry about it. August will take care of itself before you leave in June, right? Don't you worry. And of course she did, because she structured certain things to end and second phased projects to begin in August, but she had to finish phase 1 first in the spring, and then she gave herself a gap. And so we've closed 2 major projects that start when she gets back and moves forward, because that's how we structured it. Now, we structured it this way because we didn't let the client tell her when she had to do it. Her position was, I'm a powerful authority in this field. I'm delivering this. My next available time to begin phase 2 is August 2nd. And so let's do that. Well, I'll get this done, you finish your part, and then in August we'll begin again and push forward. And they all went, of course, because she didn't let them tell her what they needed. It isn't that it matters that they need it in August and not in September. It'll be fine. So the discipline of finding and closing new clients, new customers, while you're busy servicing the existing ones is key. It is the first mistake that independents make. All right, now let's talk about money. Okay, value-based pricing. You may have read about this, and if you haven't, I'll explain it. Value-based pricing is you charge your client or your customer what the result is worth to your client or customer. Now, this is a problem in a competitive marketplace for products. It is not a problem for services or for consulting. Okay, you can say my expertise is here. I am a high-end boutique expert, right? You don't have to work with me, but if you do, it's going to cost this, right? And if you stand your ground, you'll get paid that. Now, in the beginning, you may push the market, and the market may push back, and you may find that there's a level you can't charge above, but you can find from the market what somebody will pay you for your expertise. But you have to present it as expertise, to present it as value. And the way you do that is you declare it, right? Here's what I'm worth, here's what I charge. And you talk about the results that the customer or the client is going to receive. The results, not the tactics, not the benefits, not the deliverables, nothing. All those things you write in proposals, no matter what business you're in, right? Here's my features, here's my benefits, here's my methodology, here's my deliverable, my white paper, my expertise. Yes, you have to say all that. You have to add a section. You have to add a section that says, here are the results of this work, and here's the value it means to you. You're actually going to tell the client what value the client's going to receive, because you think it's embedded in the deliverables, but it's not. The deliverables, the thing that they sign the check for. If they're going to sign a check for value-based pricing, you have to tell them what the value is going to be. Not that you're going to write a report on XYZ, but that having done this work, this study, this interviewing in the company to change its direction, whatever it is that you're doing, you write the report. The report's simply the documentation. The value is you're going to change the organization for the better, and the results will be 1, 2, 3, 4. Nobody ever writes that. And that's one of the secrets of value-based pricing, is to talk about the result. Warren Buffett said, price is what you pay, value is what you get. So you can tell them the price they're going to pay, but you must tell them the value they're going to get, or they won't pay the price. My shy client, my handsome shy client, he put together a piece of work, and he said, what do I charge for this? I spend a lot of my time with my clients answering, what do I charge for this? And then they go, like that. And then I say, just do it. And he said, it was a great quote, he said, who is going to pay me $22,000 a month for part-time work? And I said, these people are going, not a worry, write it down. I said, where are you comfortable? 15,000? I mean, it's turnaround, it's important. 15,000? 17,500? Put in 22. Leave yourself some room. Let's see if they squawk. What did they come back with? We wrote it up, talked about the value, right? Put it together, sent it out. They had one question. Are you going to be on site every day? They didn't even mention the price. And he said, oh God, now what do I say? And I said, here's what you write. I do a lot of this writing of the email, training in the language. They say, no, they're there. No, I'm going to be there 3 days a week. These days, I will be there. And I will be on call. I will be on call 24/7, Monday through Friday. We didn't say 24/7. I would never say that. We'll be on call for everything that you need if I'm not in the office. But during the days that I'm in the office, here's where you can see. Here's when you can expect me. And they went, okay, and they sent the money. Okay? So you're testing the market, but you're also declaring that if you really want to get this done, and I'm obviously the person to do it, here's the fee. Now the next piece is controlling how you get paid. How you get paid is in advance of doing the work, in advance of the deliverables. Now, I will swear that in big companies, the Fortune 50, even maybe the Fortune 100, you may not be able to pull this off. But you can do phased work and get paid for the phased work early on. And so one of the secrets is to make certain that 90% of the work is paid for before the final deliverable is handed over. I made a mistake once deferring some fees for tax purposes. I was young and foolish. I deferred some fees from the last, 5 months of an assignment because I wanted it all to come in January for some reason. And in December, the person I reported to, my client, was fired. And $50,000 was held up in abeyance because the person who got him fired was his counterpart who wanted him fired and didn't appreciate me either. So all of a sudden, $50,000 is on the line of not getting paid at all. I learned not to do that anymore. That's the opposite of what I'm telling you. Don't defer work. Don't defer your payment. Move your payment up front. Okay? You can ask for money to begin the work. And then you can if there's a clear deliverable, you can get paid in 3 parts. Most of it up front, more than 50% up front, the bulk of the rest of it in phase 2 after a deliverable, and then 10 to 15% at the end of the gig when you give them their final. And you know what? It's just a payment plan to them. They've bought into the entire amount, and then the rest of it is just pricing structure that they tell accounts payable to pay. They don't care so much about how they pay you in what pieces. They care about the total amount. So if you've convinced them of the value and the total amount that they're committing to, you'll find you much less resistance to payment that's aggressively up front. So getting paid in advance, either completely in advance or in segments in advance as you start the next phase of work is critical, because then you're controlling your revenue, not them. Okay, next. Let's stop negotiating so much. All I'm talking about is negotiating, right? This is what I've been talking about all this time. Let's simplify it. One of the ways you simplify it is that you don't let the lawyers in on it until everything is agreed. And you don't write a long-form contract of your own, even if the client is going to restructure it. You write what in Hollywood we call a deal memo. It's not exactly a proposal. I don't like proposals. Let's not be confused. Let's talk about deal structures. You want to shorten your close with clear and simple outlines of deals. I call them deal memos. In the venture capital community, they call it a term sheet. It is essentially a 1 or 2 page bullet of everything that you're going to agree in very plain language. So you outline that and you do your negotiation over that. You don't let the lawyers get into it. You don't let a 20-page contract show up. You try never to let a 20-page contract show up, right? My own template that I've used for 25 years is 4 pages. Long form is 4 pages. That's it. These are the things that we agree, including my aggressive indemnification clause and all the legalese that we need in 4 pages with the signature on page 4. It's simple, right? But the deal memo is 1 page. It says, we've agreed you need this, right? I'm going to deliver this in this way. I'm going to do this and this and this methodology. I'm going to give you this deliverable at this time and these other deliverables at this time. I'm going to give you this value and you're going to see these results. And the price is this and the payment structure is bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3, right? If you're in agreement with this, I'll be glad to send you my letter agreement. It's not even a contract. You don't even say contract. I'll send you my letter agreement and we'll get started on the date indicated. Simple, simple. If they've got an objection, let them object there. Get it worked out before you put it in long form. So getting simple deal structures outlined is the simplest way to find out if you actually have a serious client. If they're going to object, when I was young and learning to negotiate, first thing I learned was never go to the negotiation table unless you're willing to walk away. If you're not willing to walk away, don't go, because you're not negotiating. So you put your price out. I don't mean you don't have some wiggle room. You can. If the client comes back and says, I don't have a budget like that, or I have this much budget this year and this rest of this budget next year, then you can renegotiate 2 phases of contract. Alan Weiss tells a great story that he had working in a Fortune 100 company. He was doing some supply chain stuff. And the vice president said to him, I have signing authority on $125,000. A penny above that, it has to go to legal. And Alan said, no problem. Phase 1, $125,000. Phase 2, $125,000. And then the vice president said, I don't need another signature if we keep it at this rate. He said, fine, you get 2 pieces, 2 projects. They'll be consecutive with, you know, a half a breathing second in between, no problem. And here we go. And then the vice president said, if I sign it, then I have to take it 1 step up. So Alan Weiss taught me this great secret. He said, he taught me to write this in. He said, you write in payment in lieu of signature accepts the terms and conditions of this agreement. And so he got paid the check, he got paid his $125,000. The agreement never got signed. Nobody ever cared. The work got done twice. So these are great little tricks. Now, when I'm working with very young and aggressive high-tech, I consult in high-tech a lot, you can't get a millennial to sign a piece of paper. I'm sorry, you can't get them to show up to sign a piece of paper. They don't know how to fax. They don't know how to, they'll scan an email, but they won't do it in time. And so this agreement, they'll transfer money into my bank account, but they won't write a check. They carry on about, I have to write you a check and mail it? I don't, you know, the world has moved to another realm. So electronic transfer is one way to get paid, even if they pay a surcharge, a fee to do it, right? And they don't have to sign anything. They send the money, they've accepted the agreement, the money hits the bank account, you start working. Simple, simple, moving along, getting the work done. Churchill said, the short words are best and the old words are best of all. So none of this corporate speak about, what was it? What is it? Actionable deliverables. Spare me. Write down what you're going to do in short words, right? Okay, when you define what you're going to do, define what you're not going to do. People never do this. You must say, here's what I'm going to do, here's what I'm going to deliver. The scope of this project does not include 1, 2, 3, and 4. Make it clear and put it on the deal memo so everybody knows what they're doing, right? This is how you begin to control scope creep. You know what scope creep is. You all work in companies, right? Okay, scope creep is when somebody puts more work and demands more value than they've agreed to pay for. You're not going to do it. You're going to say, I am glad to do that in another phase of the agreement, right? I can add it in to this time frame of the agreement if I can have an extra week for the deliverable. That's almost fitting it in, right? Or we can make a separate agreement. When this piece is finished, we can go immediately on to that. But it's not going to be done for nothing, okay? And defining it in the deal memo, defining it in the agreement is the first step, and then asserting your right to be paid for the value you have agreed to deliver and not more is the second step. This is the beginning of learning to say no. Scope creep is the insidious way of people getting you to do what you haven't agreed to do. This is a good place to start practicing. No, can't do it for that. Can't fit it in, no bandwidth. And you can say, the work that I've agreed to deliver in this scope and in this time frame has to be delivered with such excellence that I can't dilute the excellence of what I'm delivering you by adding more onto it. How would you like to expand the scope of work in another project? So, Warren Buffett has 2 rules. Rule number 1 is never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. And scope creep loses you money. Okay. The other thing that loses you money are high maintenance clients. And you know, you'll get a good nose for it pretty soon. If they fuss at you during the back and forth and the negotiation, if they don't quite seem to understand what you're bringing them, if they do yes but yet, you know this, they do yes but, or they feel sleazy, trust your gut. If they feel sleazy and you don't like them, if you don't like them, don't work with them. I don't care if you're broke. If you don't like them, don't work for them. Just don't. Life's too short. Okay, so you need to screen your prospects. That includes potential projects and corporations. It includes consulting prospects. It includes strategic allies. If you're doing entrepreneuring, you have to put up your radar that says, how much trouble is this going to be? This is a situation that's been offered to me to solve this problem, and my expertise can solve it. But this person is going to need so much hand-holding, or so much documentation, or so much is not the decision maker. You don't work for anybody who's not the decision maker. Start with that, right? That I'm going to put in enormously more time getting from A to Z than I would if I had a low maintenance client who trusted me and believed in my expertise and understood the value that I'm talking about. If you're not getting, for me, the client doesn't love me, I don't want to talk to him. I mean, I don't mean to be a love junkie, but it's hard work what I do, and they have to listen. They have to trust me. And that's actually true with all of the work you do. They don't have to love you, but they have to trust that you can actually give them what they're asking for. And if that trust isn't there, then you should probably walk away from this person, or price it way out of the range where they can deal with it, or price in all that extra time it's going to take to do high maintenance if you agree to be harassed by a high maintenance client. You may not, and certainly if you're busy, you don't have time for a high maintenance client. So you need to be screening your prospects. How do you do that? You write down an ideal client profile, which is what your prospects look like. Whether it's your strategic ally partner, or it's your project, or it's somebody in your company that you're going to work with, what are the characteristics of that person and that project? And make a checklist. And pretty much, if not all of them are yeses, then you have to think very seriously. If it's more than 2 things that don't fit, you probably have to walk away. If it's 1 thing, you need to drill down on the 1 thing to find out if you can control it or not. But I tell you, every time my clients fall off their ideal profile and take on somebody to work with that's hasn't fit the mode, they waste 3 months, find out that it's not going to work, that they're not getting paid enough for the trouble they're going to, and then they have to close off the relationship, start the marketing again. I'd rather they went to the beach, really, than that. And it happens over and over again. So some of the learning is, oh, I did it again. And you go, right. So I get to hit them with sticks then. So connected to that is knowing when and how to fire a client, reject a prospect, or turn down a strategic ally. So let's say that you're already in it and you're stuck. Well, you're never stuck because you're an independent. So you have to find nice ways to say, we're not going to do this anymore. We're done. We're done. Now, some of that is you wrap up what you've promised. You always do what you promised. You wrap it up, and then you say, going further, I believe that you need a somewhat different expertise, and here's a definition of that expertise, and I wish you all the best with it. Or sometimes you just say, this isn't working. I can't get you what you need because you're not doing what you need to do on your end. And I'm sorry, and I wish you all the best. Don't burn any bridges. But you can just say, not working, not working. Going to wrap up this deliverable to you, and I'm going to take an extra step and give you a summary of the next steps that you should take after I'm gone. Always giving. You're always giving. You're supposed to be always giving. You give more, and then you exit. So if you don't reject your prospect and you're already in the relationship, then you need to wrap the relationship up and move on. And you need to do that even if you need the money. I'm not being cavalier here. It's not worth it. Every minute you spend with the wrong client and the wrong prospect and the wrong project, you are denying yourself the opportunity for the right one to come in. So you need to get very zenned out about that. So, where are we on time? Okay? Thank you. Okay, so my favorite client, he started out, he was a good entrepreneur, a wizard, a techie wizard. And he had built a company, and I started working for him to build his company, not to teach him. I wasn't teaching people how to be consultants then. And I got into this startup, and I took a look, and within 2 months I said, you need to close this business. And it had been going for a year. It had been funded for the first year by a contract with a major company. He had the wrong partners. They were whining. They were whining, and they were supposed to be entrepreneurs. They were whining because they were not going to be paid $10,000 a month any further. This is not entrepreneuring in the tech sector. Okay, they're supposed to be hungry, supposed to eat, canned ravioli and build their dream. And not the other wrong people. And he wanted to be a CEO. And I said, everything a CEO does, you don't like to do. Everything a CEO does, you don't know how to do. How about that? How about you be something else? You don't want to be a CTO anymore. Okay, let's be a consultant. That starts with C. Everybody wants you to work with them. Everybody wants you to work with them. You have people zinging projects at you right and left, and they have money. And this thing, not only is it not going to work, it's not going to scale, and the laws are starting to change in the marketplace that may kill it even if you do get it funded. And the minute you take extra money that you're going to go out looking for, you can't escape it. 6 years of your life are going to disappear. Stop now. He said, fire those people. I'll help you. I want to fire them. I'll help you. I'll show you how. And we'll be gentle. I promise. I won't get out the hatchet. I'll be nice. I'll enjoy it, but I'll be nice while I do it. Okay? At which point he did. We vetted 25 companies that were all after him to work with him. We chose 3. So he went from making no money, because he was the CEO of a startup, he wasn't paying himself anything. First year he got to $250,000, which was where he was comfortable. That's what his CTO salaries had been. Year 2, we went to $600,000. That was a great leap. We celebrated big time. And the stock, which was part of what we were negotiating through all this year, had a private sale on a private market, and we decided to escape the stock of the company that he had become famous building, because we didn't trust the CEO to not stab us in the back. That's why. So he brought home $3 million and got out of trouble, and we didn't have to think about that. So that was good, right? So the next year, he spends all of his time on one of the, out of the 25 companies, we choose 3 to work with. So he's got a nice stream of income coming in, and he starts to spend all of his time on the one that makes no income. That's the venture, the entrepreneurial venture. He's actually putting money in, not taking money out. He's making money. He's got this company and that, but he's, And so in the middle of that year, I say, listen, you have a tax guy? I mean, I don't hear anything about protecting the taxes here. What are you doing? And he went, nah, I have a guy, an investment guy. My tax guy is not very impressive. I said, so here's in interview 3. He chooses my guy. He happens to live in Boston, right? He likes my guy. So my guy does a review in the 4th quarter with him and his wife, CPA, wife, husband, looking at taxes, right? And he says, because he assumes transparency, and we all assume transparency, the CPA says, well, look, you put $185,000 into this company you're not taking any money out of. It's not making any money yet. And his wife goes, what? You what? I wish I'd been on that call. Just hearing the stories from both the CPA, who was my CPA, and him, were wonderful. So things got much clearer right away after that. And we started saying a lot of no's about no more capital into the company until there was parity with the other partners, and right? And more focus on revenue coming in. So, you line and you realign. It's like any other training, like at the gym. They change what you're doing. You get bored doing this, you stop doing that, and you fall off your discipline. It's all about pulling you back into the discipline, right? So we got real clear about what money was coming in and no money was going out to these ventures, and we shifted the venturing to the consulting revenue ratio. Pretty simple to do. You say no here and yes there. Right? And so now he's fine. Now he's probably, this year is another kind of ramp up year. He's probably going to make $300,000 this year, and he has 3 new companies, 2 of them making passive revenue, and the venture is starting to take off. It's now got $2 million in gross revenue. Doesn't mean he's got any money, but it's working, and it's found its market niche and pricing, and it's starting to explode. I probably won't see the revenue explosion until late this year or next, but these are decisions that you make about what risk you'll take as long as you're keeping your family protected. That's the point. You need you and your family protected. Then you can venture, right? But you don't take high risk until you're safe. And if you're going to venture at all. And he will probably create great wealth out of this. It looks good. For a couple of months, it looked horrible. And then it started to get its traction again. But the no capital in and the more revenue in, those balances, you're going to be constantly fixing those. Some of the problem was, particularly with the stock that he exited, was that he had come not to trust his former boss. This was for the sale of the stock. And we got more and more worried that we wouldn't have the information we needed to know when to exit that stock. And so I quoted him, George Bernard Shaw, who said, I learned long ago never to wrestle with a pig. You get dirty, besides the pig likes it. And I said, sell the stock. Sell all the stock. Keep $200,000 worth of stock. So in the community, you're still in play. But bring the $3 million home and get this guy out of our lives. So we did. This is about setting boundaries and saying no. He said no to this person that he's known for years who's a significant player in the community. He said no to the 2 partners who were venturing when the company wasn't getting traction. He said, no more capital. I'll do the work, but no more capital. I need to redirect. We'll fix it as it goes along, but no. The more, not saying you need to say no all the time, you need to say no where it's going to do you harm. And you need to hold yourself in such respect that you know what's going to do you harm. That's going all the way back to the first thing we said. Understand your value. Understand your worth, right? The thing that's missing, and this isn't just in women, it's in men too, is the how dare you voice. Where's the how dare you voice? Where's the voice that rises up and says, how dare you ask me to do that, right? What do you mean you want me to add another whole division into the scope of work we've already agreed on and still deliver you excellence, right? How dare you expect me to be humiliated in public? How dare you not respect me, right? This is a voice that men and women need to learn to have and use very seldom. It can scream in their head. It should scream in your head every time abuse starts. Because you don't get abused if you don't allow abuse. That's just the truth. That's a hard lesson, but you don't. You don't. And so setting your boundaries and saying, here's what I'm willing to do, and here's what I'm not willing to do. And if someone calls you on it and says, what do you mean you're not willing to do that? Aren't you a team player? You go, yeah, I'm a great team player. When I'm treated with respect and I am paid the value that I'm delivering, and I'm not asked to deliver more than I've agreed to do. I'm glad to do the additional work, find a budget for it, and we'll do it. Okay, so in closing, here's the most important, this is number 10, we've not been counting. You have to keep your Zen distance. I find that a lot of the things that I'm doing with my work is changing the context, literally the context, of how my clients see themselves and their work and their value. But the last little zinger is that you need to have a Zen distance that says, I'm not that important. This doesn't matter, right? When they put me in my grave, it doesn't matter if this person insulted me and I didn't say the right thing. It doesn't matter if I turned down this work. It doesn't matter if I took this work and it was wrong and I'm stuck with it until I can get out. It doesn't, there's got to be this distance that says the quality of life is not about this. The quality of life is not about this issue, that person, this hassle, this agreement. It's not about any of that. The quality of life is about health, family, community, and doing the work you want. You are allowed to stumble. You are allowed to learn. You're allowed to forget what you learned and relearn it. How do you think you learn? You think this is a short journey? Life is long. We're going to live to be 100 years old, right? Wait till you have to accept being 60 or 70 and look at another 30 years and not know what to do. That's a different issue. You're going to work, I bet you, but you better work at something that's passionate. But that Zen distance, which hopefully you gain with age, I'm looking at all the different ages here, right? Begin now. Begin now to hone the attitude that says, I'm just a small player here, right? I mean, I had my 15 minutes of fame at the time it was appropriate, and I was young, and I loved it, and I went, oh, Glorioski, my 15 minutes of fame. And then, the world changed, the market changed, right? And I'm a small player. I make a huge difference in people's lives, but no more than 7 or 8 at a time. That's what I chose. I chose a niche. I'm satisfied with my niche. I don't have to go out anymore and hustle. I don't have to go to loud bars and networking, and I don't want to anymore because I'm not 25 anymore, right? I'm age appropriately happy, right? I like to stay home with my husband. So your Zen distance has to do with the larger context of where are you in your life, how much does that matter? I don't mean you should give up your principle. I don't mean you should give in on an agreement that's the wrong agreement. I don't mean you shouldn't fire a client who's no good. I mean everything I said, and claim your value and keep your distance from how important any of it is in the long run. The way you do this is that you learn to come from abundance. What everybody suffers is coming from scarcity. If you think this is the last nickel you'll ever see, if you think this is the only way you can make money because this client is horrible and you're going to deal with it, if you come from, I need, I don't have enough, I don't have enough, you will suffer no matter how successful you are. I promise. I promise. Zen distance is about, where's the abundance in my life? And what more do I need? Okay, I got a how dare you in my head, and I'm going to go take care of that guy on Tuesday. Put it aside, take care of it on Tuesday, and go back to your abundance. Because what's the worst can happen? If you're looking at the abundance of your life, and you're an independent with all the risk and terrifying free fall of not knowing where your next nickel's coming from, or if this happens or that happens, you're allowed to be frightened. You're not allowed to care about being frightened. You have to step back and say, I have a broader perspective, and this is one phase of my life. This is a choice I'm making. I'm going to go in this direction, and I'm going to figure it out as I go along. That's abundance. That's not risk. That's abundance. Thank you. All right, we have a microphone and questions.
Concept.
Yes?
And just starting out, do you have any comments about setting strategy when you don't have a portfolio to say, yeah, I worked with X, Y, and Z already? as far as giving a free intro or I'll give you a special discount, because that's kind of opposed to that. It's one thing trusting myself that I have value to deliver, but not having the credentials to really prove it yet.
Okay. I'm good here. You do have the credentials. You have to dig them out of your past and reposition them, even if they were corporate work. You need to pull out the results that you achieved in a corporate environment and post them as if they were client-based. That's all. You don't have to lie. You can say, when working for this client, I ran this project, I offered this value, I got these results. Your prospective clients do not care where you came from, where you were educated, what tasks you know how to do. The traditional resume is a waste of time. Your clients only care that you got results for this one and this one and this one, and you promise them you're going to get those results for them. And you do it in the interview. You do it by saying, when I worked on this project, I ran into a similar situation, solved it this way. In your case, I would look to this and this and this and find out what strategic direction to go.
Okay, so what I hear you say is don't offer any specials. Stick with the value.
No discounts.
Yeah, okay.
No discounts. No.
I've done a lot of value pricing in corporate America, and customers became aware of what we were doing and establishing the value, and so their name of the game was to establish the value lower because they knew we were going to price it based on that. How do you counter that?
Give me an example.
So we would go in and say, we're going to increase the power output of your plant, and that is worth X amount of money, right? And then they would go in and say, well, it's really not worth X amount of money. It's worth X minus da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, because they don't, they know we're going to price it based on that. And coming to, what's the value agreement? How do you counter that?
Okay. Are you in a position to say, let's structure the pricing so that when I deliver the value, you pay me? That from the delta, from here's where we are now to here, I'm going to have this percentage payment for having created the difference.
That would be hard. That would be hard.
Is that hard because you're working in a corporation?
No, because this was corporate America in that example. That would be hard, but to do that on a personal level would probably be easier.
In a personal...
When you get the value, then
yes.
I get the money, is
yes.
what you're saying.
I mean, my own model, which I stumbled upon, my own model is a low retainer for the effort and the work, a 6-month minimum, which lasts for years, nobody quits, and a significant percentage of the delta of increase that I create for my clients.
What kind of a percentage do you typically take?
10% of the growth of every project that we work on, exempting existing projects until we start to use my work for a new project with an old client, then that client goes into the pot as well.
Excellent.
It's and people like it because it's a success sharing model. I don't know if
you don't get it till they get it.
That's right, and they're happy to write that check. All right, first one of my early clients said, hooray, I get to write you a revenue sharing check. Hooray, I get to send you this money because I wouldn't have this money if I hadn't worked with you. I don't know if you can do it in corporate America. I don't know much about corporate America. I have worked in the Fortune 50, but I've always been doing those entrepreneurial ventures which didn't have the same rules, right? They had market-driven rules. And so I'd say, well, here's what the market allows, here's what we can do. So I can't answer you corporately. Personally, you can say, well, let's, for this project, measure the delta of success, and you pay me when you see it. And then you get very clear about what the delta is, what's exempt and what isn't. Okay? Other questions? You okay on time? No. Ah, here's one. I knew there was one.
I have a question about mission creep.
Okay.
If you're in a situation where it's already starting to happen, how can you kind of get it back to where it began in
Stop
a
it.
productive way?
Stop it. Okay. It's already started. How started did it get?
Pretty started. I
Pretty
mean, they're bringing
started.
in. They're bringing,
Pretty started. Quantitative information. Okay. You set a meeting and you say what I've suggested. The project will deteriorate with this added burden on it unless more budget is made for it or the time frame is changed which extends the budget. Mm-hmm. You say, I've given you the best price for this work to deliver this excellence, and you're threatening the project with adding the scope creep, and we're not going to do it. I don't have the head count, the manpower, the whatever. I don't know who you're talking to, but you talk in their terms that the project's in jeopardy. It isn't working more that's going to make the difference. It isn't everybody puts in another 2 hours a day, never mind if that's fair or not. Executives don't care if that's fair, right?
right.
You talk about the loss of value from the overburdening of the scope creep.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Good. Done? All right. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.